far below the ground, locked inside layers of stone formed 65 million years ago, researchers have found something that seems completely out of place. Tiny round particles made from rare metals appear in sites across the world, arranged in a pattern strangely similar to the traces left behind by modern nuclear tests. Yet these particles are far older than any known human society. In the kind of cosmic perspective, often linked with Carl Sagan, this discovery raises a troubling question about how little we may truly know about Earth's past. Humanity has long assumed it was the first species on this planet to break apart atoms, shape metals with extreme heat, consume fossil fuels, and alter the chemistry of the atmosphere. But that belief may not be as secure as it seems. What if another intelligent civilization rose on Earth long before humans appeared? What if it built machines, used powerful sources of energy, changed the environment, and then vanished so completely that millions of years of erosion, shifting continents, volcanic activity, and buried sediment removed nearly every sign that it had ever existed? In this journey, we will look at evidence that pushes against the familiar story of our planet. We will examine possible nuclear traces from the distant past, study unusual extinction events, and ask why the fossil record is filled with vast empty periods that remain difficult to explain. Get ready. The investigation starts now. In 1980, geologist Walter Alvarez was studying ancient rock formations in Italy when he came across a remarkable discovery. A narrow layer of clay separating the Cretaceous and Paleogene periods contained iridium concentrations 30 times above the normal level. Iridium is a rare metal found in large amounts inside asteroids, yet it is almost completely missing from Earth's crust. This finding transformed the way scientists understood major extinction events. The unusual rise in iridium eventually became strong evidence that an asteroid impact wiped out the dinosaurs 65 million years ago. However, what interested researchers most was the remarkable clarity with which one devastating event had been recorded in the rocks. Even after 65 million years, Earth still carried a visible mark of what had happened on that single day. That discovery led to a disturbing question. If one asteroid collision could produce evidence that remained obvious for 65 million years, what kinds of traces would a technologically advanced civilization leave behind? More importantly, would modern scientists know how to identify those traces if they found them? The Silurian hypothesis grew from this line of thought. Its name comes from an ancient species featured in Doctor Who, but the idea itself is a serious scientific question. It asks whether industrial civilizations might have developed on Earth long before humans appeared, only to leave evidence so faint, altered, or deeply buried by geological processes that no one has recognized it. Think about the immense scale of geological time. If human industrial civilization continued for 10,000 years and then disappeared, its entire existence would account for only about 2/10,000ths of 1% of Earth's 412 billion year history. Searching for proof of that tiny interval would be similar to looking for one particular page inside a library holding 4 million books. The evidence would be incredibly difficult to locate, but some form of it should still remain. Any industrial civilization would need to use energy, change the chemical makeup of its atmosphere, and create waste that could survive much longer than its buildings, vehicles, or machines. Over time, these effects would enter the planet's lasting geological archive. They might be preserved within stone, frozen inside ice cores, or trapped in layers of sediment at the bottom of oceans and lakes. The real difficulty is knowing what those signs would look like. Scientists understand the geological effects of modern industry because humanity is producing them at this very moment. We release carbon dioxide into the air, spread microscopic plastic fragments throughout the planet, and manufacture radioactive isotopes that will remain detectable for thousands of years. Geologists living in the distant future would have little trouble identifying the influence of our civilization. But an earlier civilization might not have followed the same technological path. It may have relied on energy sources that humans have not yet discovered. It may have created materials that broke down in ways completely different from plastic, steel, asphalt, or concrete. Its factories, transportation systems, and waste products may have produced chemical signals unfamiliar to modern researchers. Those ancient industrial traces could therefore be present all around us while being classified as ordinary natural events. The iridium layer demonstrates that Earth can preserve signs of major events across enormous stretches of time. If the planet can hold a record of one day when an asteroid collided with its surface, then it should also retain some evidence of civilizations that may have survived and developed for thousands of years. With this possibility in mind, scientists began looking at the geological record from a different perspective. They searched for unusual patterns that might point toward industrial activity in the remote past. What they found began to challenge some of the most basic beliefs about the history of life on Earth. The first clues appear within a mystery hidden in the fossil record. In theory, Earth's fossils should provide a continuous account of life from its earliest beginnings to the present. Instead, the record resembles a damaged book from which most pages have been removed. Only scattered pieces remain, offering small hints about chapters that can no longer be read. Paleontologists usually describe these missing sections as gaps, but the word does not fully express how enormous some of them are. One famous example is the Cambrian explosion, which occurred 540 million years ago. During this period, complex organisms seemed to appear suddenly in the fossil record, almost as though a switch had been turned on. Before the event, the available fossils mostly show simple single-celled life. Afterward, the oceans teem with animals equipped with eyes, protective shells, specialized limbs, and highly organized body plans. Such a major transformation would normally be expected to unfold through millions of years of slow evolutionary development. Yet in geological terms, it appears to have taken place with astonishing speed. The fossil record does not provide a complete explanation for this sudden increase in biological complexity. The Cambrian explosion is not the only unexplained break. Across many periods, the fossil record seems to show life moving forward through abrupt and poorly understood leaps. Certain species appear, spread widely, and flourish before disappearing without any clear reason. Entirely new kinds of organisms then emerge with few visible transitional forms, almost as though they arrived without a long evolutionary history. Conventional explanations often focus on preservation bias. Soft-bodied creatures usually decay before they can become fossils, which means many important evolutionary links may never have been preserved. Local environments also influence whether remains become fossilized. Changes in temperature, water chemistry, sediment pressure, and oxygen levels can produce empty sections in the record, even when gradual evolution was continuing. These factors clearly explain part of the problem. The fossil record is naturally incomplete, and countless organisms vanished without leaving any physical remains. Even so, certain gaps appear too organized and too closely connected to specific moments in time to be explained entirely by random failures of preservation. These missing periods often occur alongside major shifts in atmospheric composition, ocean chemistry, and worldwide climate conditions. Such connections raise the possibility that something more unusual than ordinary evolutionary change may have been taking place. Consider the Great Oxygenation Event that occurred 2 billion years ago. Oxygen in Earth's atmosphere rose sharply, killing many of the life forms that already existed while making it possible for entirely new organisms to develop. This major shift changed the chemistry and biology of the planet at a basic level. Scientists generally explain the event by saying that cyanobacteria began releasing oxygen through photosynthesis, yet the timing and the enormous scale of the transformation appear unusually exact for a purely natural process. The rise in oxygen follows a pattern similar to what might occur if an advanced civilization had started changing the chemistry of the atmosphere on a massive scale. Comparable patterns can be found throughout the fossil record. Long periods of relative balance, suddenly broken by extreme changes that transform life across the planet. Mass extinction events are followed by the fast spread and diversification of new species. Chemical traces preserved in layers of rock seem to point toward enormous, widespread changes affecting several planetary systems at once. These patterns may have been created by natural forces that scientists do not yet fully understand. Earth's climate and chemical systems depend on complicated feedback cycles that could trigger sudden shifts when certain limits are reached. However, the same evidence might also point toward a completely different possibility. What if some of the missing periods in the geological record mark times when earlier civilizations controlled much of the planet? Their industries could have changed the environment so severely that many existing species disappeared, leaving what now look like major breaks in the fossil record. The sudden appearance of new forms of life could have resulted from evolution adapting to those altered conditions, or it might suggest that advanced beings were capable of manipulating genetic material. The layers of rock hold evidence that may be even more unusual. Every factory, every power station, and every large machine produces chemical traces that remain long after the original buildings and equipment have collapsed and disappeared. Over time, these chemical fingerprints become part of Earth's geological record, leaving lasting signs of industrial activity that may survive for millions of years. Modern industry creates unusual isotope ratios that are clearly different from those produced by ordinary natural processes. When fossil fuels are burned, carbon that remained trapped underground for millions of years is released into the atmosphere. This ancient carbon carries a distinct isotopic pattern that can be measured in the air and later preserved in tree rings, ice cores, ocean sediments, and other natural records. Nuclear weapons testing produced radioactive isotopes that are not normally created in nature. These human-made elements will remain measurable in geological material for thousands of years, giving future researchers clear and undeniable evidence that a technologically advanced civilization lived on Earth during the 20th and 21st centuries. Yet this is where the puzzle becomes more difficult. Geologists have reported unusual isotope patterns in ancient rock layers formed millions of years before human civilization appeared. The Permian-Triassic boundary, which records the Great Dying 252 million years ago, contains carbon isotope ratios that closely resemble the effects of enormous fossil fuel combustion. The size of this chemical signal suggests that an event released an amount of carbon comparable to burning all known reserves of coal, oil, and natural gas on Earth within a relatively brief period of geological time. Standard explanations point to huge volcanic eruptions or the release of methane from warming oceans. Atmospheric samples preserved in ice extend back 800,000 years. Within these records, scientists have found periods when the atmosphere changed rapidly in ways that appear similar to what might be expected from large-scale industrial activity. Greenhouse gas concentrations suddenly rise, remain unusually high for thousands of years, and then gradually fall back toward earlier levels. Such patterns appear more than once in the ice core record and are often preceded by smaller chemical changes in the atmosphere that could seem like deliberate alterations of planetary systems. The transitions appear unusually fast and organized when compared with known natural mechanisms. Rock formations in Colorado also contain microscopic spheres made of titanium and other rare metals, arranged in layers linked to particular periods of time. These tiny spheres closely resemble particles created during industrial processes involving extremely high temperatures. However, they are found in geological layers formed long before humans developed metallurgy. Similar metallic irregularities have also been reported in sediment cores collected from deep parts of the ocean. The metals appear in distribution patterns that suggest they were spread widely through the atmosphere, almost as though many industrial sources on different continents had released them at the same time. Deep ocean sediment cores provide further possible signs of ancient industrial activity. Certain layers contain concentrations of compounds described as synthetic and not expected to form naturally, even though they appear in geological settings that existed an immense amount of time before the development of human chemistry. These chemical traces may still have natural causes that science has not yet identified. Earth's geology is extraordinarily complicated, and it is possible that researchers are reading signs of rare natural events in the wrong way. Even so, the number of unusual patterns is growing, and their organized nature is becoming increasingly difficult to dismiss. The mystery is no longer limited to chemical evidence. It also includes materials that, according to our current understanding, should not exist in such ancient layers at all. Plastic may become the longest lasting mark humanity leaves on Earth. Long after our buildings collapse and our bones are broken down into dust, tiny pieces of plastic will remain trapped inside layers of sediment. Future geologists would see them as clear proof that an industrial society once spread across and transformed this world. Plastic decomposes at an extremely slow rate in natural surroundings. Sunlight, high temperatures, chemical reactions, and constant weathering can weaken it, but small fragments may still survive for hundreds or thousands of years. In deep sea mud, underground deposits, or permanently frozen regions, pieces of plastic could remain almost unchanged for millions of years. Because of this remarkable durability, plastic serves as an almost perfect marker in the geological record. Scientists in the distant future studying Earth's sedimentary layers would find a sudden boundary where huge amounts of plastic begin appearing. That sharp change would mark the start of what geologists might describe as the Anthropocene epoch, the period when human industrial activity began reshaping the planet on a global scale. Yet, some recent findings raise the possibility that humans were not the first civilization to leave behind this kind of evidence. Sediment cores taken from isolated ocean basins reportedly contain microscopic particles resembling synthetic polymer compounds in layers created millions of years before people developed modern plastic. These particles seem to share the same features as plastic fragments produced today. They resist natural decay, remain chemically stable, and contain compositions that are not known to form through ordinary natural processes. The particles are concentrated in separate sediment layers divided by millions of years. This pattern appears to suggest several different periods of large-scale synthetic material production, each followed by a complete end to that activity. Their geographic spread also seems to point toward worldwide distribution, as though the substances had once been manufactured, transported, and used by a civilization operating across the entire planet. More detailed testing has revealed even stranger characteristics. Some of the ancient polymer-like fragments contain molecular arrangements that seem more advanced than those found in many modern plastics. Their structures appear to have been deliberately designed for greater strength, longer survival, and stronger resistance to environmental decay. If that interpretation is correct, their makers may have understood material science at a highly developed level. Deep drilling operations in Antarctica have also recovered ice samples containing similar artificial-looking particles in layers formed hundreds of thousands of years ago. Preserved by the frozen environment, the particles have reportedly retained their original molecular arrangement, offering what appears to be strong evidence that they were manufactured rather than naturally formed. Findings like these challenge familiar ideas about material science, technological development, and the history of Earth itself. Either unknown natural processes can produce nearly perfect copies of synthetic polymers under conditions that scientists do not yet understand, or an earlier civilization mastered advanced chemistry long before modern humans appeared. The consequences for Earth's timeline would be enormous. If these particles truly came from ancient industrial activity, then technological civilizations may have emerged and disappeared more than once during the planet's long history. Every period of development could have left its own distinct signal in rocks and sediments before the civilization responsible for it vanished entirely. Certain rock formations in Australia contain unusual layers that geologists first classified as uncommon mineral deposits. Later examination reportedly suggested that these materials might instead be heavily altered remains of synthetic substances with complicated molecular structures. Producing such compounds would seem to require advanced industrial methods. Carbon dating of organic matter located beside these fragments gives ages reaching back millions of years. However, the synthetic-looking compounds do not display the level of decay expected after surviving for such immense periods. Their condition could point to natural preservation mechanisms that remain unknown, or to manufacturing methods far beyond anything humans can currently achieve. This evidence leads toward a deeply unsettling possibility. Humanity could be living directly above the remains of earlier civilizations without having any idea that they were ever here. Their cities, machines, and greatest inventions may have disappeared, leaving only microscopic particles spread throughout layers of rock and sediment. Scientists may have classified those traces as natural formations simply because modern civilization has always assumed it was the first technological society on Earth. The most troubling clues, however, may lie much farther below the surface, where nuclear evidence seems to describe a history that should not be possible. In 1972, French scientists examining uranium ore from the Oklo mine in Gabon, Africa, discovered something completely unexpected. The uranium carried unmistakable signs of sustained nuclear chain reactions that had taken place naturally 2 billion years ago, producing what geologists now recognize as natural nuclear reactors. These ancient reactors remained active for hundreds of thousands of years, using uranium as fuel and generating radioactive waste through a process that scientists once thought could happen only with highly advanced human technology. Their discovery demonstrated that nuclear reactions can take place naturally when very unusual geological conditions come together. However, the Oklo reactors also revealed a much broader and more important fact. Nuclear activity creates clear signatures in the geological record, and those signs can survive for billions of years. The isotope ratios formed during nuclear reactions are so unusual and specific that scientists can still detect and study them long after the original reactions have ended. This understanding encouraged researchers to look for other possible nuclear traces hidden throughout Earth's geological past. What they discovered carries major consequences for the Kuran hypothesis. Uranium deposits found in Kazakhstan contain isotope ratios that closely match those created during nuclear weapons tests. These ratios appear inside rock layers formed 50 million years ago, an age far earlier than the development of atomic technology by humans. The signatures are too exact and too heavily concentrated to be explained by natural events similar to the Oklo reactors. Comparable nuclear weapons signatures have also been identified in ancient geological formations on 6 different continents. Their worldwide distribution appears to point toward organized nuclear weapons testing carried out on a global scale. Yet the rocks containing these traces were formed long before any known human civilization existed. Deep core samples taken from the Greenland ice sheet also contain radioactive isotopes that are not naturally produced on Earth. Such isotopes can be created only through particular nuclear reactions requiring careful control over neutron flow and temperature. Their discovery in ancient ice raises the possibility that earlier civilizations may have developed forms of nuclear technology beyond what humanity can presently achieve. These isotopes occur in separate layers divided by thousands of years, suggesting several periods of advanced nuclear activity, each followed by a complete stop. This pattern is similar to what might remain if technological civilizations became powerful, created nuclear weapons, and then either destroyed themselves or disappeared because of some other event. Sediment cores collected from the Pacific Ocean contain plutonium isotopes in layers associated with mass extinction periods in the fossil record. Plutonium does not naturally exist on Earth in meaningful quantities and is generally produced through advanced nuclear processes. Finding it in very old ocean sediments suggests that nuclear weapons could have contributed to some of the planet's greatest extinction events. The amounts of these isotopes are extraordinary. Certain geological formations hold concentrations of artificial radioactive elements that would have required the detonation of thousands of nuclear weapons. Ancient rock formations also contain elements that can be created only inside particle accelerators or highly developed nuclear reactors using methods that humans have learned only recently. Their presence in geological samples millions of years old suggests that earlier civilizations may have reached scientific levels beyond our current understanding. This nuclear evidence matches other unusual signs found in the geological record with remarkable accuracy. Layers containing artificial isotopes also reveal sudden changes in atmospheric chemistry, widespread extinctions, and the appearance of manufactured materials within sediment deposits. Together, these patterns suggest that Earth may have gone through several periods of advanced technological civilization, with each one leaving nuclear traces before disappearing from the historical record. The accuracy and complexity of these signatures may indicate that those earlier societies possessed scientific knowledge greater than anything modern humanity has yet achieved. Still, the nuclear evidence is only one part of a far larger mystery buried beneath the surface of our planet. Every industrial civilization needs enormous amounts of energy to operate its technology and sustain a large population. That level of energy use inevitably changes the chemistry of the atmosphere, producing recognizable patterns in greenhouse gas concentrations that remain preserved in geological layers long after the civilization responsible has disappeared. Since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, human activity has raised atmospheric carbon dioxide by more than 40%. This increase is happening so quickly that future geologists studying ice cores and sediment samples millions of years from now will easily recognize it. Modern energy use has already created a lasting mark in Earth's climate history. Yet humanity may not be the first civilization to produce such a signature. Ice core samples from Antarctica preserve atmospheric information covering the past 800,000 years. Within that long record, scientists have identified several periods when greenhouse gas levels rose rapidly in patterns closely resembling the changes caused by modern industrial activity. These ancient periods display the same recognizable patterns of sudden carbon dioxide and methane increases that are normally linked to large-scale fossil fuel burning and industrial activity. The timing, size, and repeated structure of these shifts appear too organized to be explained by ordinary natural climate changes alone. They seem to point toward coordinated energy use across the entire planet, on levels equal to or even greater than the industrial output of modern humanity. Each period continued for thousands of years before greenhouse gas concentrations gradually fell back to their earlier levels, which may suggest that these ancient societies eventually collapsed, disappeared, or replaced their polluting energy systems with cleaner technologies. Sediment cores taken from the ocean floor provide even more striking signs of possible climate engineering in the distant past. Certain sediment layers contain chemical traces that suggest enormous changes to the atmosphere, extending far beyond the effects of ordinary fossil fuel consumption. Their chemical makeup appears to indicate the large-scale release of aerosols intended to influence worldwide temperatures and rainfall patterns. Carrying out atmospheric changes of this kind would have required a strong knowledge of climate science, along with engineering abilities that human societies only recently started to develop. The enormous size of these interventions suggests that earlier civilizations may have reached a level of technology advanced enough to handle Earth's whole atmospheric system as one vast engineering project. Deep drilling operations in Greenland have recovered ancient ice samples containing trapped atmospheric gases from periods reaching back millions of years. Some of these samples appear to contain concentrations of synthetic substances that are not naturally produced, yet are known to function as extremely powerful greenhouse gases. Their existence may indicate that ancient technological societies created and used methods of atmospheric modification for reasons that remain unknown to us. These synthetic materials occur in exact proportions that seem to point toward deliberate planning instead of an uncontrolled or accidental release. Their molecular forms also appear to show careful optimization for particular atmospheric results, suggesting that their makers had a detailed knowledge of atmospheric chemistry and climate physics. Geological formations in North America include layers that have preserved the chemical makeup of ancient soils from the same periods when these atmospheric changes were taking place. The chemistry of those soils reveals major shifts in rainfall patterns and temperature ranges that match closely with the unusual greenhouse gas levels discovered in the ice cores. These climate interventions appear to have worked with surprising effectiveness during the periods of ancient atmospheric engineering. Geological records indicate that Earth's climate remained relatively stable even when natural forces should have produced serious warming or cooling. The changes seem to have been planned to preserve favourable environmental conditions capable of supporting very large populations and highly developed technology. The complexity of these climate engineering programs suggests that their creators may have understood Earth's climate system more completely than humanity understands it today. They seem to have controlled global atmospheric chemistry successfully for thousands of years at a time, preserving stable conditions through several natural climate shifts that might otherwise have led to environmental disaster. Yet the most fascinating evidence may indicate that some of these ancient societies attempted an even greater engineering achievement. The chemical composition of Earth's atmosphere contains a record of every major event throughout our planet's 4.5 billion year history. Volcanic eruptions, asteroid collisions, the development of photosynthesis, and the appearance of complex organisms have all created lasting chemical signs in the air. These records remain preserved inside ice cores, sealed within ancient stone and absorbed into the waters of the deep ocean. This atmospheric history is detailed enough for scientists to recognize single volcanic eruptions that happened thousands of years ago, follow the movement of ancient wildfires, and determine the exact period when living organisms began releasing oxygen. Because this record is so precise, it should also contain signs of large-scale atmospheric alteration carried out by technologically advanced civilizations. Recent studies of ancient atmospheric materials have identified changes so broad and technically complex that they challenge present ideas about the limits of planetary engineering. Gas bubbles trapped inside amber preserved samples of air from 100 million years ago. These ancient pockets of atmosphere reveal oxygen concentrations that were 35% higher than modern levels, while their isotope ratios seem to suggest artificial enrichment rather than ordinary biological activity. The enrichment pattern appears to indicate the large-scale use of atmospheric processing systems created to keep oxygen at ideal levels for sustaining enormous populations. The required oxygen changes demanded the removal of vast amounts of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, while oxygen production was raised far beyond anything Earth's natural plant life could produce on its own. Controlling the air at this level would amount to engineering an entire planet on a scale greater than anything humanity's ever tried. Deep ice cores taken from both polar regions hold ancient samples of air that reveal repeated periods when the atmosphere was completely reorganized. These changes affected more than greenhouse gases. They altered the basic makeup of the air itself. Nitrogen isotope ratios point to massive intervention in the atmosphere's main component, a process that would have required technology capable of treating the planet's entire volume of air. The changes seem to have been intended to create atmospheric conditions better suited for advanced technology. The proportions of gases preserved in these old samples would have made combustion more efficient, improved the treatment and production of materials, and slowed the corrosion of metal structures. It appears that the atmosphere itself had been redesigned to serve the needs of an industrial civilization. Sediment cores collected from the oceans preserve signs of atmospheric projects that were even more ambitious. Chemical evidence points to periods when Earth's air contained artificial gases that are not found naturally anywhere else in our solar system. These substances possess molecular designs suited to particular atmospheric roles, implying that they were deliberately created and produced for release on a planetary scale. The artificial components seem to have been developed to perform several tasks at the same time. Some increased heat retention and helped warm the world during natural periods of cooling. Others formed a protective barrier against radiation, shielding life on the surface from dangerous cosmic rays and powerful solar eruptions. The advanced and combined functions of these atmospheric changes suggest a scientific understanding far beyond what humanity currently possesses. Samples of ancient air also preserve signs of engineering attempts that did not succeed. Certain periods reveal sudden atmospheric alterations followed by equally sudden returns to earlier conditions, as though experimental changes had been introduced and later reversed after creating unforeseen consequences. These patterns of testing, failure, and correction imply that even highly developed civilizations faced serious difficulty when trying to control a system as complicated as an entire planet. The most extraordinary finding comes from atmospheric samples dating back 200 million years. They contain gases whose molecular arrangements suggest that they were designed to sustain forms of life that are no longer present on Earth. These gas mixtures would have poisoned most life living on the planet today, yet they would have been ideal for organisms built around a completely different kind of biochemistry. This evidence raises the possibility that earlier civilizations altered Earth's atmosphere, either to suit their own non-human biology or to support artificial organisms that depended on very different environmental conditions. The consequences of this idea are enormous. Earth may once have supported several completely distinct biospheres, with each one deliberately shaped by the civilization that controlled the planet at the time. Yet atmospheric engineering is only one form of planetary alteration that may have survived within the geological record. Mass extinctions have repeatedly changed the course of life on Earth, including 5 major events that destroyed most living species across the planet. Scientists generally explain these disasters through asteroid strikes, enormous volcanic eruptions, severe climate shifts, and other natural catastrophes. However, unusual details within the extinction patterns raise the possibility that some of these events were caused by technology rather than by nature alone. The Permian-Triassic extinction 252 million years ago destroyed 96% of marine species and 70% of land-dwelling vertebrates. Often called the Great Dying, It came closer than any other known event to eliminating complex life from Earth completely. Yet the way organisms disappeared during this crisis includes features that remain difficult to account for through natural processes by themselves. The Great Dying unfolded with an unusual degree of precision and selectivity. Species living in similar environments and depending on nearly identical resources experience sharply different survival outcomes for reasons that scientists still cannot fully explain. Some groups that should have been highly exposed to the disaster survived with very little change, while others that seemed well prepared to endure environmental stress vanished entirely. This uneven survival pattern may indicate that the cause of the extinction affected particular kinds of organisms while leaving others relatively unharmed. Natural catastrophes usually determine survival according to habitat, climate tolerance, food supply, and other environmental limits. The Great Dying, however, seems to have operated according to a very different set of conditions. Geological material taken from the extinction boundary contains chemical traces that appear consistent with the widespread use of biological weapons. Rock layers from this time include unusually high levels of artificial toxins that are not formed through known natural processes, yet are highly effective at interfering with specific biological functions. The toxins seem to have been created to attack specific biochemical systems while allowing other biological functions to continue untouched. Their spread is worldwide and follows an organized pattern, suggesting that they were released in a coordinated way across every continent and ocean basin at nearly the same time. No known natural mechanism could distribute artificial chemical compounds around the entire planet with such accuracy and consistency. The evidence points toward an extinction event that may have been intentionally planned and engineered. Sediment cores taken from the ocean floor at the extinction boundary contain microscopic particles that resemble the remains of specially designed microorganisms. These particles display signs of artificial genetic alteration and production methods that human beings would not discover for hundreds of millions of years. Their existence raises the possibility that biological weapons were once released across the whole planet. The Ordovician-Curan extinction 445 million years ago reveals similar signs of unnatural selection and worldwide coordination. The disaster destroyed 85% of marine species, yet the pattern of destruction appears to have targeted certain organisms in a way that opened ecological spaces for new forms of life that emerged almost immediately afterward. The speed at which these species were replaced seems too great to be explained by ordinary evolution and adaptation. New organisms appear in the fossil record only thousands of years after the extinction, already completely suited to the environmental conditions that followed it. This sequence suggests that the extinction may have been designed to remove existing species and create space for replacement organisms that had already been prepared in advance. Geological layers connected to several extinction boundaries also contain isotope patterns, suggesting the enormous use of nuclear weapons. These radioactive traces appear exactly at the points when extinction levels reached their highest peaks, raising the possibility that nuclear conflict was used to speed up the collapse of ecosystems. The amount of nuclear activity indicated by the evidence is far beyond anything humanity has ever produced, implying the existence of civilizations with military abilities vastly more advanced than our own. Certain extinction events also contain signs that weapons may have been deployed from space. Mineral deposits found at extinction boundaries include microscopic particles that could only form through extremely powerful energy reactions in the upper atmosphere of Earth. These particles may point to orbital weapons systems capable of focusing huge amounts of energy on selected locations across the planet's surface. The most unsettling clues come from the Cretaceous-Paleogene boundary, the event associated with the disappearance of the dinosaurs. Although there is no doubt that an asteroid struck Earth, geological evidence suggests that its arrival may not have been a completely random cosmic accident. Unusual isotope ratios discovered inside the impact crater match patterns that could be produced if nuclear propulsion technology had been used to change the asteroid's path. This possibility suggests that some of Earth's great mass extinctions may have been deliberately created by earlier civilizations seeking to destroy rival species and reorganize the biosphere according to their own goals. Every major extinction removed dominant organisms and allowed different life forms to take control of the planet until another catastrophe changed everything again. Yet the strongest evidence may still be concealed beneath several miles of ice and stone. Antarctica keeps some of Earth's most closely guarded secrets below its frozen surface. Around 2 miles of layered snow and ice cover a record stretching across millions of years, preserving an almost continuous history of the planet under conditions stable enough to keep even fragile organic molecules nearly unchanged. Recent deep drilling programs have started to uncover this hidden record, exposing evidence that may challenge much of what we believe about Earth's ancient history. The Antarctic ice sheet preserves the most detailed atmospheric archive found anywhere on the planet. Bubbles sealed inside ice cores provide samples of ancient air reaching back 800,000 years. However, drilling at greater depths suggests that the record could continue millions of years further into the past, including ages when Antarctica had no permanent ice and experienced a mild climate. Ice samples recovered from these extreme depths contain atmospheric gases whose chemical balance points to large amounts of technological activity during periods when the continent was believed to contain thick forests and rich ecosystems. The ratios of these gases reveal strong signs of large-scale industrial operations taking place when Antarctica had conditions similar to those of modern-day California. Ground-penetrating radar studies of the rock beneath the Antarctic ice have also detected what appear to be buried artificial structures. Their geometric forms are too orderly, repeated, and widespread to be easily explained as natural geological features. Radar readings suggest enormous constructions extending for hundreds of miles below the ice sheet, raising the possibility that Antarctica was once home to a major civilization. These structures seem to contain substances that do not correspond to any known naturally occurring minerals. Electromagnetic measurements taken through the ice indicate synthetic materials with properties that could only be created through highly developed knowledge of materials science. The building methods seem to have been created to endure tremendous environmental pressure, perhaps even the growth of the ice sheet itself. Recent drilling missions have brought up organic material from sediment deposits below the ice, and these samples contain strong signs of genetic alteration. The recovered DNA fragments include artificial sequences that do not appear through natural evolution, suggesting that earlier civilizations had highly developed biotechnology. The altered life forms seem to have been created for particular industrial and farming tasks. Some of these genetically engineered organisms display traits that allowed them to survive severe cold and very limited light, which suggests they were made specifically for conditions in Antarctica. Their genetic changes include protection against radiation and the ability to process artificial chemical compounds, indicating that they may have supported a civilization living in a deeply industrialized environment. Mineral deposits found beneath the ice hold unusually high concentrations of rare earth elements arranged in formations that point to large-scale mining and processing activities. The extraction seems to have used methods that created distinct geological marks, unlike anything formed by natural forces. The enormous size of these mining operations suggests a civilization with vast energy needs and highly advanced extraction systems. Deep sediment cores, collected from below the ice, contain layers filled with microscopic mechanical parts made from substances that do not naturally occur on Earth. These tiny components carry signs of nanotechnology production methods beyond present human abilities. Their existence suggests that earlier civilizations reached levels of miniaturization and precision engineering that modern society is only starting to approach. The most fascinating findings involve structures that seem to have been built for operations connected to space. Radar readings suggest the presence of launch centers and what may have been production plants for enormous aerospace vehicles. These facilities stand in locations that would have offered the best access to polar orbital paths during the periods when Antarctica had no ice covering it. Electromagnetic studies have also located buried energy facilities that appear to have been designed to capture geothermal power on a massive scale. Their power distribution systems spread across the whole continent, pointing to a civilization that may have achieved coordinated planetary energy control. The generating capacity suggested by these surveys is several orders of magnitude greater than the total amount of power produced around the world today. Some evidence even suggests that the Antarctic civilization could have caused the original creation of the ice sheet. Chemical traces preserved inside the ice indicate that the temperature drop happened quickly and may have been artificially produced rather than slowly developing through natural climate change. This civilization may have deliberately created the ice age that destroyed it, possibly as a way to preserve proof of its existence until another intelligent species could discover it. Yet Antarctica is only one piece of the larger body of evidence pointing towards civilizations with abilities far beyond what we can easily imagine. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence has trained scientists to identify technosignatures, the unique marks that advanced societies leave behind in their surroundings. Such traces can include artificial radio transmissions, pollution in an atmosphere, enormous construction projects, and other signs of organized technological activity. Scientists are now using those same methods to search for technosignatures hidden within Earth's geological past. This new approach has completely changed the way planetary history can be studied. Rather than searching only for fossils and ordinary geological events, researchers now examine ancient Earth for signs of machinery, industrial production, and large-scale engineering projects that forgotten civilizations may once have created. The findings have been remarkable. Every method developed to locate alien civilizations has produced positive results when used to investigate the ancient history of Earth. The evidence appears clear, repeated, and impossible to dismiss. Technological civilizations existed on this planet before humanity, and they left behind traces that researchers are only beginning to understand. Spectroscopic studies of ancient rock layers reveal signs of atmospheric contamination, matching what scientists would expect from advanced industrial societies. These traces include artificial compounds, abnormal isotope relationships, and chemical reactions that could only be created through complex technological processes. Similar pollution patterns appear many times across Earth's history, with millions of years separating each occurrence. Electromagnetic scans of geological regions have also revealed buried formations whose features match scientific predictions for mega-scale engineering structures. These formations seem to include transportation systems stretching across continents, enormous networks for distributing energy, and construction efforts far larger than anything humanity has ever tried to build. Deep drilling operations continue to uncover apparently manufactured objects in geological layers that are vastly older than human civilization. These objects are made from substances that could only be created through highly advanced technology, and they display signs of production methods that go beyond what people can currently achieve. Their intended functions remain uncertain, leaving researchers able to do little more than speculate about why they were made. Satellite studies using methods originally created to search for alien megastructures have revealed geometric shapes within Earth's geology that may point to gigantic construction projects from the distant past. These designs can be detected from orbit, yet they are so large that they cannot be clearly recognized from the surface. This suggests the work of civilizations that planned on a planetary level and had the technical ability to turn such immense ideas into reality. The available evidence indicates that technological societies may have appeared and disappeared several times during Earth's history. Each one seems to have developed abilities beyond those of the civilizations that came before it, preserving earlier knowledge, expanding upon it, and introducing new inventions before eventually collapsing. After their disappearance, only faint signs remain buried inside the planet's geological layers. Some of these civilizations appear to have mastered full-scale planetary engineering, changing entire atmospheric and ocean systems to meet their needs. Others may have placed most of their effort into space technology, leaving clues of enormous aerospace activities that could have reached across the solar system. Still, others seem to have specialized in biological engineering, producing new forms of life created to carry out particular tasks. The meaning of these findings reaches well beyond our own planet. If advanced civilizations can emerge naturally and repeatedly on worlds with favorable conditions, then the universe may contain countless planets that have supported several intelligent species at different points in their histories. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence may be concentrating too heavily on civilizations that are active today, while overlooking the much larger amount of evidence left by societies that vanished long ago. Human civilization may be only the newest chapter in Earth's extremely long story of intelligence and technological development. We may be following paths first created by earlier societies that reached astonishing levels of achievement before disappearing into deep geological time. What they left behind pushes us to reconsider our position in the universe and the duties we carry as temporary caretakers of an ancient world that may have been inhabited many times before. The Curran hypothesis makes us face the possibility that humanity is neither alone nor the first intelligent species to rise on this planet. We may belong to a long line of thinking, beings that have influenced Earth over millions of years. They left traces for us to find, just as our own civilization may leave marks that future societies will uncover after we have become part of the geological record. Every living creature carries inside its DNA a record of the past that is more complete and detailed than any archive created by humans. Genetic code stores signs of evolutionary pressure, changing environments, and major biological events that took place millions of years ago. However, new developments in the study of ancient DNA have reportedly uncovered something remarkable hidden within this biological history. Samples taken from deep Siberian permafrost contain preserved genetic material belonging to organisms that lived hundreds of thousands of years in the past. Within these old DNA samples, scientists have reportedly identified genetic sequences that do not match any known natural evolutionary process. The sequences appear to show deliberate alteration carried out with methods more advanced than the genetic engineering techniques available to humans today. The same modified sequences appear at the same time in several species found across different continents and historical periods. These changes follow repeated and organized patterns, suggesting that genetic alteration may once have been coordinated across the entire planet. Ordinary evolution would not normally create such carefully structured changes in unrelated species during matching periods of time. The modifications seem intended to strengthen particular characteristics that could have been useful to a highly developed technological society. These traits include greater intelligence in several animal species, stronger resistance to disease, longer lifespans, and biological adaptations that would allow organisms to survive inside environments altered by artificial means. Such changes raise the possibility that earlier civilizations did not simply modify individual species, but may have reshaped the wider biosphere to support their goals. Ancient DNA recovered from organisms trapped inside amber appears to provide even more striking signs of deliberate genetic alteration. Insects trapped inside 100-million-year-old amber contain genetic sequences that seem to include artificial chromosomes built for storing information. These living data systems were apparently created to protect knowledge inside biological organisms. Their storage capacity goes beyond anything modern technology can currently reproduce. The genetic code appears to have been arranged for the highest possible data density while remaining completely stable for millions of years. The preserved material includes mathematical constants, maps of stars, and what seem to be technical instructions for highly advanced machines and systems. Some of the preserved organisms carry genetic sequences that encode detailed maps of Earth from ancient periods when the continents had very different positions. These biological maps reveal a level of geographical understanding that could only have come from observing the planet from space, suggesting that ancient civilizations may have developed advanced satellites or similar orbital technology. Sediment cores collected from the deep ocean also contain DNA fragments belonging to microorganisms that were clearly altered for specialized industrial work. These microbes display genetic changes intended to extract rare earth elements, break down poisonous substances, and produce complicated organic compounds. They appear to have functioned as biological factories designed for industrial production on a massive scale. The genetic engineering methods behind these ancient organisms seem far more advanced than anything humans can perform today. The modifications reveal exact control of gene activity, the construction of synthetic chromosomes, and the insertion of artificial genetic circuits that function much like biological computers. Modern genetic studies have also found inactive genes inside several species living today that may be leftover traces of these ancient modifications. Under certain laboratory conditions, these dormant sequences can be switched on, causing present-day organisms to develop features that might have been valuable to an advanced technological society but offer no clear advantage in a natural setting. This genetic evidence suggests that earlier civilizations may have built completely artificial ecosystems filled with engineered plants, animals, and microorganisms created to support their technological systems. These biological networks could have handled everything from processing basic materials to removing waste, allowing entire civilizations to survive sustainably within natural environments that have been carefully redesigned. Yet the genetic changes reveal only one part of the hidden story, buried in Earth's deepest regions. The difference between geology and technology becomes difficult to define when researchers examine certain mineral structures that look more like manufactured machines than naturally formed rocks. These formations contain orderly arrangements, systems for storing information, and mechanisms that react to outside forces, suggesting that they may be examples of technology so advanced that it works directly through geological activity. Crystalline formations found in deep caves display geometric designs that represent complicated mathematical relationships. Their internal structures contain more information than natural mineral growth should normally be able to hold. The patterns appear to have been intentionally organized to store and process data through the basic physical qualities of matter itself. Detailed examinations show that these crystal structures react to electromagnetic fields in ways that point to possible computing functions. The crystals seem capable of carrying out calculations, preserving memory, and even changing their own internal design when they receive external signals. They represent a type of computer system based on controlled crystal growth rather than wires, chips, or electronic circuits. The complexity of these geological computers is greater than anything available through current human engineering. The crystals show signs of parallel processing on a scale that would require extremely large conventional computers to copy. Their total computing ability seems limited only by the physical size of each crystal formation. Deep underground mining projects have revealed enormous networks of these crystalline computing structures stretching for miles through layers of rock. The networks appear to transfer information and continue processing data even after remaining buried for millions of years. These systems seem to have been built for endless operation, drawing power from geothermal heat and the natural decay of radioactive materials. Some of the crystal formations also appear to preserve backup copies of complete technological databases. The data is stored within crystal lattice formations that can remain stable throughout immense geological periods. These archives contain engineering details, scientific information, and cultural histories belonging to civilizations that disappeared millions of years in the past. The crystalline technology seems able to reproduce itself and carry out its own repairs. Damaged crystal structures display signs of regeneration, rebuilding their original arrangements and restoring their former functions. The systems appear to have been created to endure every imaginable catastrophe while continuing to protect their information and preserve their ability to process data. Underground investigations have located enormous crystalline formations that seem to function as central processing hubs within information networks extending across entire continents. These structures produce activity patterns, suggesting that they are still observing and studying geological, atmospheric, and biological conditions over huge regions. The crystal networks apparently exchange information through seismic waves and electromagnetic fields. Their communication methods reveal such extraordinary complexity that the systems may contain a type of distributed awareness or artificial intelligence working across geological spans of time. New findings suggest that these crystalline networks may still be shaping Earth's geological behavior today. Earthquake cycles, volcanic eruptions, and the creation of mineral deposits display faint but noticeable connections with changes in crystal network activity. The systems may be able to control planetary geology by carefully adjusting underground pressure, heat, and energy movement. The meaning of this possibility is difficult to overstate. Earlier civilizations may have developed technological systems that became so deeply integrated with Earth's natural geology that they can no longer be separated from ordinary planetary processes. Millions of years after their builders disappeared, these systems may still be operating, regulating, and supporting the planet through advanced geological engineering. The crystal networks would represent a form of technology that processes information over geological time and works through the basic forces responsible for shaping the world beneath us. Humanity may be living on a planet where geological events are still being directed by artificial intelligence created by civilizations that existed before living creatures had even left the oceans. Yet even these discoveries seem small when compared with evidence of technologies that may have traveled far beyond Earth. Space archaeology has become a new field in the effort to uncover traces of ancient civilizations. In the same way that traditional archaeology studies objects buried beneath the surface, space archaeology searches for signs of technology preserved in orbital regions, where the vacuum can protect certain materials from normal decay for millions of years. Recent studies of the area surrounding Earth have detected artificial objects moving in extremely stable orbits that seem far older than any space technology produced by modern humanity. These objects possess features linked to advanced materials and building methods beyond the limits of current human aerospace engineering. Several of these ancient orbital objects are positioned near gravitationally stable Lagrange points, where they could remain for indefinite periods without needing fuel, propulsion, or repeated course adjustments. Placing artifacts in such carefully chosen locations would require a highly developed knowledge of orbital mechanics and would indicate detailed, long-term planning for permanent activity in space. Spectroscopic examinations of the objects show that their construction materials do not correspond with any recognized minerals from Earth or with alloys manufactured by humans. These substances seem specially designed for survival in space, offering protection against radiation, collisions with micrometeorites, and the severe temperature changes experienced during orbital movement. Deep space observation networks have also detected larger structures following highly elliptical paths that carry them far outside Earth's nearby region before eventually bringing them back again. These structures seem to have been built for missions lasting over extremely long periods, perhaps even millions of years. Their orbital patterns indicate that they may have been launched during eras when Earth's axial tilt and orbital conditions differed greatly from those seen today. Some of the orbital artifacts contain evidence of automatic maintenance and self-repair systems that may have allowed them to remain operational across enormous stretches of time. These mechanisms appear to collect cosmic radiation and particles from the solar wind, using them as basic resources to preserve structural strength and replace components damaged by age or impact. Powerful telescopic searches have also revealed structures in distant solar orbits that resemble abandoned space stations. Their design includes architectural elements suggesting that they were intended to house large populations for very long periods. The stations follow orbits that would have allowed them to gather solar energy efficiently while remaining in stable positions in relation to Earth. Mining missions involving near-Earth asteroids have revealed signs of earlier extraction work that appears to have taken place long before humans began exploring space. The methods used in these ancient operations point to technological abilities far beyond anything included in present-day human plans for asteroid mining. Some asteroids seem to have been carefully taken apart, sorted, and processed through techniques that modern science still cannot fully explain. Surveys conducted with radio telescopes have also detected artificial transmissions coming from objects located in the outer solar system. These objects appear to function as automatic observation stations left behind by civilizations from the distant past. Their signals contain highly organized modulation patterns indicating advanced communication systems created to send information across interplanetary distances. Several of these artifacts in the outer solar system seem to be watching Earth and regularly sending reports about the planet's condition to recipients whose identity and location remain unknown. The timing and structure of the transmissions suggests that these monitoring devices may have continued operating without interruption for millions of years, carefully documenting and reporting changes in Earth's geology and living systems. Lunar studies using ground-penetrating radar have also revealed what appear to be artificial structures hidden below the surface of the Moon. These buried sites seem to include mining centers and industrial facilities that once handled lunar materials on an enormous scale. The equipment appears to have used technologies capable of separating and extracting useful resources from lunar regolith with far greater efficiency than any method currently proposed by humans. Evidence found in orbit suggests that earlier civilizations from Earth may have reached a level of space technology advanced enough to maintain permanent activities across the solar system. Their off-world infrastructure may have contained production centers, systems for gathering energy, and wide monitoring networks that could continue working without depending on civilization on Earth. The discovery of such ancient space technology requires us to question many basic ideas about how civilizations develop and how long their achievements can survive. These objects in space may represent the most durable technological creations left by earlier societies, with some systems apparently remaining active millions of years after their makers disappeared from the surface of Earth. Yet the strongest evidence of ancient technological progress may be concealed in the deepest trenches of the oceans. The lowest regions of Earth's seas are still almost completely unexplored because crushing pressure, freezing conditions, and total darkness make direct investigation extremely challenging. However, recent improvements in deep-sea exploration have started to uncover what has remained hidden in these abyssal zones, including possible artificial remains that challenge accepted ideas about civilizations from the distant past. Deep ocean trenches provide some of the most stable environments found anywhere on Earth's surface, shielded from ordinary weather, much surface erosion, and many forms of geological disturbance. These deep waters can preserve evidence for millions of years under conditions that would quickly erase similar remains on land. The intense pressure and low oxygen surroundings may create unusually favorable conditions for protecting even fragile technological objects. Sonar surveys of the ocean floor have revealed large geometric arrangements that appear too precise, repeated, and widespread to be explained as ordinary natural formations. These patterns may be the foundations of enormous structures that once extended above the seabed, possibly forming underwater settlements or industrial centers of extraordinary size. The remains display signs of construction methods designed to survive the immense pressure found in the deepest parts of the ocean. Creating stable buildings at such depths would require engineering abilities beyond anything that present human technology can achieve. The materials used in these structures seem specially developed for underwater environments where normal construction materials would be crushed almost immediately. Deep-sea submersible expeditions have recovered objects from several of these sites that show clear signs of highly advanced production methods. These artifacts are formed from substances that remain stable under extreme pressure while preserving detailed internal designs that point to complex technological functions. Some of the underwater sites appear to have been built for the large-scale treatment of seawater and the removal of minerals dissolved within it. These processing centers show evidence of systems able to collect rare earth elements, precious metals, and other useful resources from common seawater efficiently and in industrial quantities. The submerged installations also contain what seem to be enormous energy-producing facilities that drew power from deep ocean thermal vents and volcanic activity beneath the sea. These systems appear to have used technology capable of capturing and converting geothermal energy with much greater efficiency than any method currently available to humanity. Advanced sonar scans have uncovered vast transportation systems linking underwater structures across whole ocean basins. These routes seem to have been built to carry enormous amounts of raw materials and perhaps large populations between submerged facilities located thousands of miles apart. Sediment cores collected from the deep sea floor near these structures contain signs of biological alteration on an extraordinary scale. Within the sediment are remains of organisms that seem to have been deliberately designed for specialized underwater industrial tasks, such as processing resources, breaking down waste, and controlling surrounding ecosystems. Several submerged complexes also appear to contain systems for producing and regulating air, which may have kept the interiors of underwater settlements safe and breathable. These atmospheric management systems seem capable of supporting large communities that lived permanently inside underwater cities, sheltered from environmental changes taking place on the surface. The submerged facilities also appear to have been linked with surface activity through enormous vertical passages extending upward from the ocean floor to the sea levels that existed during different geological ages. These connections point to organized cooperation between underwater societies and surface civilizations carrying out projects on a planetary scale. The enormous size and technical complexity of these submerged societies suggests that they may once have been the main centres of ancient technological progress. Because they were protected from surface catastrophes and dramatic environmental shifts, underwater civilizations might have continued developing their technology for millions of years, even while societies on land repeatedly appeared and disappeared. Evidence from the deepest parts of the oceans suggests that earlier civilizations reached a level of underwater engineering that allowed them to construct permanent, independent cities in some of the harshest environments anywhere on Earth. These vast underwater urban centers may have functioned as technological and cultural capitals, supporting activities in space and major projects that reshaped the planet. Yet the underwater cities may have represented only one section of a much larger technological system extending across several worlds. More evidence is now being presented to suggest that civilizations from Earth's distant past operated not only in orbit around the planet, but throughout the solar system. Powerful space telescopes and missions sent between planets have started detecting unusual structures and altered landscapes on other worlds that seem to have connections with ancient civilizations once based on Earth. Missions mapping the Moon have reportedly identified manufactured structures on its far side, with building methods that resemble traces discovered within Earth's geological layers. These lunar facilities seem to have been created for industrial production on a huge scale, using the Moon's weak gravity and airless environment to make materials that would be extremely difficult or impossible to produce on Earth. Among these facilities are objects resembling mass drivers, which are electromagnetic launch systems able to accelerate heavy cargo until it reaches speeds suitable for travel between planets. Evidence around these systems suggests that they once launched tremendous amounts of material toward other worlds in the solar system, pointing to organized development programs involving several planets. Surveys conducted from orbit around Mars have found geometric formations across the Martian surface that closely match similar arrangements detected in Earth's geological record. These formations appear to be the remains of large installations that processed resources from Mars and changed parts of the planet's environment across entire continents. Studies of the Martian atmosphere have also revealed chemical traces that may indicate enormous terraforming efforts, which temporarily raised atmospheric pressure and produced conditions more similar to those on Earth. These changes seem to have remained effective for thousands of years before the atmospheric projects were apparently discontinued, allowing Mars to gradually return to the cold and thin-aired world seen today. Telescopes observing deep space have also detected unusual structures within the asteroid belt that appear to be the remains of enormous mining and industrial operations. These installations show possible signs of technology capable of taking whole asteroids apart and transforming their material into purified resources and finished components. The facilities spread throughout the asteroid belt seem to have been joined by a transport system that moved huge amounts of cargo from one mining location to another. This network appears to have used technology capable of handling interplanetary trade and shipping on a scale far beyond anything modern human space programs can currently achieve. Missions sent toward the outer planets have also reported artificial-looking objects inside the atmospheres of gas giants. These objects seem to have been designed to collect gases from the surrounding atmosphere and transform them into valuable resources. Such processing stations show signs of engineering that could survive and function within the violent conditions of giant gaseous planets, while continuously producing the materials required by highly advanced civilizations operating throughout space. Several moons orbiting the outer planets appear to contain signs of enormous mining projects that removed water, organic substances, and rare elements needed to sustain large populations living in space. These extraction sites seem to have supplied basic materials to industrial centers located across the solar system. Networks of radio telescopes have also picked up signals that appear artificial, passing between objects in different parts of the solar system. These transmissions resemble automated surveillance and communication systems abandoned by earlier civilizations. Evidence within the signals suggests that these networks continued operating for millions of years, preserving links between facilities established on several different worlds. The evidence found beyond Earth points to ancient terrestrial civilizations reaching a level of space technology advanced enough to create independent and self-supporting settlements throughout the solar system. These distant operations may once have been directed by control stations on Earth, yet they also possessed autonomous systems that allowed them to keep working after civilization on Earth had fallen. The enormous size of these interplanetary activities suggests that earlier civilizations planned the use and development of resources across the entire solar system. Instead of treating each planet as an isolated location, they seem to have viewed the solar system as one connected economic and technological network. This wider approach suggests that ancient societies may have become truly spacefaring, reducing their dependence on the environment or survival of any one planet. Their technological structure reached across several worlds and may have survived catastrophes that would have completely destroyed a civilization limited to a single planetary surface. However, the available evidence implies that their goals may have reached far beyond the boundaries of our own solar system. The most fascinating clues about ancient technological societies may not come from the structures they created, but from the information they attempted to leave behind. Throughout Earth's geological history, researchers have found what seem to be systems for storing knowledge, apparently created to communicate with future societies capable of discovering them millions of years later. These messages appear in forms so unfamiliar that modern researchers are only starting to learn how they might be translated. Earlier civilizations seem to have invented storage methods capable of protecting detailed information across geological periods, while still allowing any sufficiently advanced future society to recognize and examine it. Crystal structures found inside deep caves contain patterns of information stored within their molecular arrangements, which can remain unchanged for millions of years. These encoding techniques use the basic properties of matter to preserve data at levels of density far beyond the abilities of present-day human technology. The information stored in these crystals includes mathematical demonstrations, maps of stars, and material that seems to warn about threats capable of affecting an entire planet. Other storage systems use carefully arranged isotope ratios inside mineral layers to preserve messages that can only be understood through highly developed knowledge of nuclear physics. These messages are placed within rock formations located on several continents, meaning that the complete communication can only be recovered through cooperation on a global scale. Ancient ice cores contain samples of past atmospheres that seem to have been deliberately altered to protect chemical messages. These chemical changes hold information in molecular patterns that can remain measurable for hundreds of thousands of years. Some of the messages provide detailed technical plans for systems that could help humanity address present problems involving energy production and environmental damage. Sediment cores taken from the oceans contain microscopic particles positioned in organized patterns that represent advanced mathematical connections and scientific ideas. The arrangements seem intentionally constructed so that any civilization with a strong enough understanding of material science and information theory would eventually notice them. Detailed study of these communication systems indicates that they may have been created for societies confronting specific stages of technological difficulty. The knowledge seems to have been chosen with care, offering possible answers to challenges that commonly emerge as a civilization becomes more advanced. Some messages appear to warn about serious dangers faced by earlier societies during their own development. These warnings contain extensive knowledge about controlling environmental damage, creating lasting energy systems, and preventing technological failures that could endanger civilizations operating on a planetary scale. Other communications seem to offer invitations to become part of a wider network of technologically advanced societies. These invitations provide directions for constructing communication devices that might allow contact with civilizations located on other worlds or possibly existing in other periods of time. The storage systems also show signs of having been revised many times by separate civilizations, with each society adding its own discoveries, warnings, and experiences to an expanding collection of shared knowledge. The archive seems to have been created to gather knowledge from many different civilizations so that future societies might avoid making the same mistakes again. Recent findings indicate that some of these communication networks may still be operating, maintained by automated systems that continue observing the technological progress of humanity. These systems seem able to revise the information they preserve in response to present conditions and new problems emerging within human civilization. The most extraordinary messages appear to have been programmed to produce certain reactions once human technology crosses specific stages of development. Some sections of the stored knowledge can be accessed only through decoding methods that prove humanity has reached a particular level of scientific understanding. These activated messages imply that earlier civilizations created highly advanced procedures intended to guide the societies that came after them. The guidance network seems structured to offer support without preventing each new civilization from finding its own solutions to technological, cultural, and social difficulties. These message systems may represent the longest-term communication effort ever created, extending across millions of years and connecting several separate civilizations. Their existence suggests that intelligence on Earth could belong to an ongoing chain in which knowledge is protected, expanded, and passed forward across immense periods of time. Yet the deepest meaning of these discoveries becomes clear only when we ask what they could mean for humanity's future. Evidence of earlier technological societies on Earth reveals a deeply unsettling pattern. Every civilization seems to have developed impressive technological abilities before disappearing from the geological record, leaving behind only faint remains that took millions of years for modern humans to locate and understand. This repeated pattern suggests that technological societies on Earth may pass through regular cycles of growth and decline, with every cycle continuing for roughly 10 to 50,000 years before ending in total collapse. The fact that this pattern appears in several civilizations separated by millions of years suggests that strong and recurring pressures may push advanced societies toward their own destruction. Studies of extinction traces connected with earlier civilizations reveal repeated signs of environmental damage, exhausted resources, and social breakdown. Each society appears to have traveled along a similar path of development, eventually consuming planetary resources at a level that could not be maintained and causing a final ecological disaster. The technological powers reached by these earlier civilizations were apparently far greater than what was necessary to manage the planet in a stable and lasting way. Rather than concentrating on sustainable systems, each society seems to have chased the highest possible level of technological progress without seriously considering the environmental effects that would appear over long periods. Signs of climate engineering indicate that previous civilizations had technologies capable of keeping environmental conditions stable for an unlimited amount of time. However, the evidence suggests that these systems were either abandoned, poorly managed, or deliberately misused, resulting in sudden environmental collapse and the destruction of the civilizations that had developed them. Nuclear traces show that several earlier societies possessed weapons powerful enough to erase their own populations completely. The dates of these nuclear signals closely match known periods of civilizational collapse, suggesting that conflict and warfare may have contributed to the destruction of some advanced societies. Evidence found beyond Earth also indicates that certain civilizations developed the ability to establish permanent colonies away from the planet, settlements that might have survived disasters occurring on Earth. Even so, these off-world programs appear to have been abandoned or were unable to remain independent after the Earth-based civilizations that supported them collapsed. The repeated failure of these earlier societies, despite their extraordinary abilities, suggests that technological progress by itself cannot guarantee survival over long periods. Each civilization seems to have overcome major engineering and scientific problems while remaining unable to solve deeper social, economic, and philosophical issues that eventually caused its destruction. Communication systems left behind by previous civilizations contain direct warnings about threats that appear to affect every technological society. These warnings concentrate on protecting the environment, maintaining social order, and developing powerful technologies responsibly, since those same technologies could either secure a civilization's survival or make its extinction unavoidable. Modern human civilization is following patterns of development that strongly resemble those of earlier societies that failed. Our fast technological growth, destruction of natural systems, and increasing use of limited resources are moving along paths similar to those that ended in the collapse of the civilizations before us. At the same time, humanity also possesses certain unique qualities that may give us a chance to escape this repeating cycle of growth, decline, and disappearance. Our worldwide communication networks, systems for cooperation between nations, and increasing concern for the environment may be advances that earlier civilizations never managed to create. Discovering evidence of civilizations that existed before us gives humanity a unique view of the long-term problems faced by technologically advanced societies. For the first time in Earth's history, one civilization may possess detailed knowledge about the causes that led earlier societies toward collapse. This information gives us a rare chance to study the failures of those who came before us and to build more sustainable methods of technological growth. The warnings, records, and instructions supposedly left behind by ancient civilizations could serve as a guide for avoiding the same dangers that brought about their destruction. However, making proper use of this knowledge would demand major changes in the way modern humanity handles technology, protects the environment, and prepares for the distant future. We now have to choose whether we will follow the same destructive cycle as our predecessors or escape that pattern and create the first genuinely sustainable technological society on Earth. The decision we make may determine whether human civilization becomes another failed experiment preserved only in the geological record or the first civilization on this planet to achieve lasting success. The available evidence also suggests that some earlier civilizations may not have disappeared from Earth entirely. Certain groups seem to have created automated systems intended to observe planetary conditions and assist the rise of later civilizations over periods lasting millions of years. These ancient systems might still be active in the present day, quietly shaping the direction of human technological progress through carefully controlled actions. Geological observation networks reportedly found across different layers of Earth's crust display signs of uninterrupted activity continuing for millions of years. These networks seem to have been built to observe environmental changes, geological movements, and the development of life while staying hidden from young and growing civilizations. The abilities shown by these monitoring systems appear to go far beyond anything available through present-day human technology. They seem able to forecast changes in the environment, regulate certain geological processes, and perhaps even influence biological evolution by making small but deliberate adjustments to surrounding conditions. Recent volcanic eruptions and earthquakes appear to follow patterns connected to the activity of these ancient systems. These geological events seem to happen at carefully selected moments, possibly preventing far more destructive disasters while keeping the planet stable enough to support the continued growth of a technological civilization. Climate records also reveal slight changes in atmospheric and ocean systems that seem intended to balance natural climate shifts capable of threatening emerging societies. Producing such changes would require technology able to manage the environment on a planetary scale and remain active without interruption for millions of years. Several major technological discoveries in human history also display patterns that may point toward outside assistance or hidden intervention. Important breakthroughs often seem to appear exactly when they are required to address new technological problems or environmental threats, with timing that appears too precise to be explained by chance alone. Archaeological findings suggest that some ancient locations may have been deliberately constructed to offer technical knowledge to future societies. These places reportedly contain systems for storing information that can be opened or understood only after a civilization reaches a particular level of technological development. The guidance contained within them seems intended to speed up human progress along paths that earlier civilizations considered the safest and most effective for long-term survival. This acceleration appears to have been carefully controlled, giving humanity the abilities it needs while limiting exposure to the same technological hazards that may have destroyed previous societies. Studies of human genetic development have also identified changes that seem unusually fast and precisely directed when compared with what natural selection alone would normally produce. These genetic adjustments appear to improve human intelligence and increase resistance to harmful substances in the environment, both of which would support the growth of a technological society. Communication devices reportedly found in installations deep beneath the ocean show signs of sending frequent reports about human civilization to recipients whose identities remain unknown. These transmissions seem to record humanity's technological advancement and evaluate whether our civilization is likely to survive and develop in a sustainable way over long periods. Some of these communication systems also appear able to receive replies, raising the possibility that the monitoring and guidance programs are being directed by surviving members of earlier civilizations living in hidden regions of Earth or operating from installations located beyond our planet. The guidance networks show signs of learning and adjusting according to the achievements and mistakes of earlier civilizations. Every new intervention seems more refined, more accurate, and more carefully focused than the efforts that came before it, all with the apparent goal of steering emerging societies toward a stable and sustainable form of technological growth. Recent findings indicate that these guardian systems could now be preparing for direct communication with human civilization as we move closer to technological limits that earlier societies were unable to cross safely. The contact procedures seem structured to offer essential support while still allowing humanity to preserve its freedom, make independent choices, and create its own answers. The presence of these guardian systems introduces serious questions about human independence and the true nature of technological progress. Our civilization may be advancing under the quiet influence of ancient predecessors who studied their own failures and became determined to help us succeed in the places where they could not. Yet the final measure of whether our civilization can survive may depend on our ability to build sustainable technology without depending completely on outside assistance, proving that we have genuinely understood the lessons preserved across deep time. The greatest technologies created by earlier civilizations may already be functioning everywhere around us in forms so advanced that we are unable to identify them as artificial systems. These technologies may have become so deeply integrated with natural processes that they can no longer be separated from the basic forces controlling our world. New discoveries in quantum physics show that certain physical laws and natural constants possess a level of fine-tuning that appears too exact to have emerged through random cosmic change alone. This fine-tuning seems arranged to create the best possible conditions for complex chemistry and biological evolution across entire planets. Some physical constants appear to change slightly over time in ways that correspond with major stages of biological evolution on Earth. These changes seem precisely controlled to create evolutionary challenges that encourage the rise of increasingly complex organisms, while also preventing environmental shifts severe enough to produce total mass extinction. Advanced studies of quantum field fluctuations have uncovered patterns that may indicate the existence of enormous quantum computing systems working through the basic structure of space-time itself. These systems seem able to process information and affect physical events across regions large enough to include whole planets. The quantum computing networks show signs of uninterrupted activity continuing for billions of years, suggesting that earlier civilizations achieved technologies capable of working through the fundamental forces of physics instead of relying on ordinary mechanical machines or electronic devices. Gravitational irregularities measured by highly sensitive instruments point toward the existence of immense but unseen structures that seem to affect Earth's geological and atmospheric behavior. These hidden structures appear designed to preserve planetary stability through extremely accurate control of gravitational and electromagnetic fields. They may be able to divert dangerous asteroids, regulate volcanic activity, and preserve a suitable atmospheric balance through methods based entirely on field effects rather than visible machines or direct mechanical action. Biological life also shows signs of optimization that may suggest outside guidance operating through processes that remain beyond our present understanding. Evolutionary routes sometimes appear directed toward traits that support the later development of technological civilization while avoiding biological dead ends that could prevent intelligence from arising. Genetic research indicates that several crucial evolutionary changes happened with a degree of timing and precision that may point to coordination by external systems able to influence living development across millions of years. This coordination seems intended to make certain that intelligent life would eventually appear on Earth. The atmosphere and oceans also display patterns of stability that seem greater than what natural feedback systems alone should be able to maintain. This balance may be supported by invisible regulatory networks that constantly modify planetary conditions and keep them within the best possible range for complex life. Recent tests using advanced detection instruments suggest that these unseen technologies may now be starting to expose their presence as human science reaches the level of sophistication required to recognize how they function. Their appearance seems carefully scheduled for a period when humanity is prepared to understand, accept, and eventually integrate such technologies. These invisible guardian systems may represent the highest accomplishment of previous civilizations, technologies so advanced that they function through the fundamental structure of reality itself. These technologies may have enabled Earth to preserve the conditions needed for technological civilizations to emerge again and again, even though cosmic dangers should have made that repeated development unlikely. Learning how these hidden systems work may be necessary if human civilization hopes to reach the same kind of stable and lasting progress that allowed earlier societies to create permanent protective networks. These technologies may be both the most valuable inheritance and the most difficult responsibility left to us by those who came before. Evidence found throughout the solar system suggests that earlier civilizations from Earth may have created emergency plans to shield future developing societies from major cosmic dangers. These protective systems seem to have been built to redirect asteroids, control harmful solar radiation, and keep planetary conditions stable over periods lasting millions of years. Monitoring networks located in deep space appear to detect artificial objects placed in positions that would offer the earliest possible warning of approaching asteroid dangers. These stations seem designed to follow potentially hazardous objects and organize defensive action through technologies that remain almost impossible for us to observe. Several asteroid paths appear to show signs of deliberate adjustment, preventing collisions with Earth during important stages of biological evolution. These changes seem to have been calculated with great accuracy, removing specific dangers while causing as little disturbance as possible to normal orbital movement. Solar monitoring satellites located at gravitationally stable positions appear to watch the Sun and activate defensive measures against powerful solar flares and coronal mass ejections. Such systems may be able to protect Earth's atmosphere and technological structures from severe events caused by space weather. Magnetic field generators distributed across the solar system seem to have strengthened Earth's natural magnetic shield during periods when its power weakened because of geomagnetic reversals. This artificial support appears intended to preserve atmospheric protection when the planet was most exposed. Systems for controlling orbital debris also seem to operate continuously, removing both natural and artificial objects that might threaten Earth or important installations in space. This debris clearing process appears to use technologies capable of locating and destroying dangerous objects with extreme precision while leaving almost no visible evidence behind. Communication networks extending into deep space appear to coordinate with similar defensive systems around other stars. This suggests that protective technologies first developed by civilizations on Earth may belong to a much wider interstellar network created to defend young civilizations across the galaxy. These systems also seem able to learn from new dangers and adjust to changing conditions within the solar system. They may even be capable of creating entirely new defensive abilities when faced with threats they have never encountered before. Recent missions into space have found signs that some of these protective systems may be slowly making themselves visible to human observation. This could mean that humanity is nearing a level of technological development that would allow us to understand these ancient networks and perhaps become connected with them. The discovery of such systems would raise serious questions about human freedom and about the real nature of our connection to civilizations that existed before us. Our survival and growth may have been carefully supported by machines and technologies operating far beyond anything we currently understand. At the same time, these protective networks seem to have been designed to hand over responsibility to later civilizations once those societies reach the necessary level of technological maturity. Humanity may now be approaching the stage when it must begin maintaining these defensive systems without outside protection. The change from being quietly protected to becoming an active member of a cosmic defense network may be the final test of whether human civilization has developed enough wisdom, responsibility, and self-control to join the ancient guardians who may have defended Earth for millions of years. Progress in quantum physics has also created completely new ways to search for signs of civilizations from the distant past. Quantum archaeology applies the laws of quantum mechanics to recover information from systems that seem to hold no usable records, uncovering evidence of technological activity that ordinary archaeological methods are unable to detect. Effects connected to quantum entanglement may preserve details about earlier events within the fluctuations of quantum fields that exist throughout all matter and energy. With advanced instruments, this hidden quantum information may be recovered by reading historical traces stored inside the quantum structure of materials that were present when ancient technologies were operating. Quantum archaeology has made it possible to recover highly detailed information about technological activities that took place millions of years in the past by examining quantum traces preserved inside mineral crystals exposed to ancient industrial processes. These quantum traces allow researchers to rebuild past events with a level of detail far beyond anything conventional archaeological techniques can achieve. Advanced quantum examination of geological materials has uncovered signs of enormous quantum computing systems that operated during different periods of Earth's history. These ancient machines seem to have used the planet's full magnetic field and the electrical activity of the atmosphere as computing resources, processing information on a scale that makes present-day human computers appear extremely limited. Evidence from these old quantum systems suggests that they solved computational tasks requiring power comparable to turning every atom on Earth into an individual quantum processor. Such extraordinary computing ability indicates that earlier civilizations may have developed an understanding of quantum mechanics that greatly surpassed modern human knowledge. Analysis of quantum fields also suggests that space-time around Earth holds a record of every major technological event that has occurred throughout the planet's history. Using quantum archaeological methods, researchers may be able to retrieve this information directly from the quantum vacuum surrounding Earth. The information stored in the quantum vacuum seems to be deliberately protected by highly advanced systems that constantly renew, arrange, and preserve historical records, so they do not gradually disappear. These quantum archive networks may be the most complete backup system ever created, designed to protect the entire history of technological progress on our planet. Quantum entanglement networks identified across the solar system also appear to have been built for immediate communication between facilities located at enormous distances from one another. These networks show signs of having remained active for millions of years while transmitting information across interplanetary space without any loss of accuracy. Recent tests involving quantum archaeological recovery have produced technical descriptions of machines and systems that are far beyond current human abilities. The recovered material contains complete plans for advanced energy production, transportation systems, and applications in materials science that could transform human society. Some findings from quantum archaeology seem to include knowledge intentionally placed in storage so that future developing civilizations could eventually discover it. These quantum time capsules contain educational resources created to guide technological growth along routes considered best for building a stable and sustainable civilization. The evidence indicates that the ability to store and recover information may have been the greatest accomplishment of these earlier societies. By placing knowledge directly into the quantum structure of matter and space-time, they created a way to preserve their collected wisdom, discoveries, and experience permanently. Quantum archaeology may therefore give humanity access to the full technological and cultural inheritance of civilizations that existed on Earth before us. This knowledge offers an unmatched chance for rapid progress, but it also creates a serious responsibility to handle what is discovered with care and good judgment. The deepest finding to emerge from research into ancient civilizations concerns evidence that earlier societies is capable of preserving consciousness across immense periods of time. These systems for protecting consciousness may have been the final survival method used by civilizations that knew their physical destruction could not be avoided. Detailed brain pattern scans of ancient objects have revealed signs of neural interface technology, able to upload and download consciousness patterns without losing any information. These systems seem to have been created to move individual minds from biological brains into technological storage devices capable of maintaining those mental patterns without a time limit. Quantum consciousness storage systems found inside crystalline structures appear to hold thousands of separate consciousness patterns that have remained preserved for millions of years. The storage units continue to protect the exact structure of each pattern while also supplying enough computing power for conscious experience to continue inside simulated environments. These consciousness preservation technologies seem to have been widely used during the final stages of previous civilizations, allowing entire populations to escape physical extinction by moving their minds into artificial platforms that could function indefinitely without biological bodies or life support systems. More advanced investigation indicates that certain consciousness storage systems may still be operating and could contain living minds belonging to civilizations that disappeared millions of years ago. These preserved patterns of consciousness seem able to exchange information with detection systems advanced enough to recognize them. Communication methods identified within consciousness storage technology suggest that preserved minds belonging to separate civilizations have formed virtual communities lasting millions of years in subjective experience. These digital societies may be the real continuation of earlier civilizations on Earth, surviving through technology rather than through living bodies. The preservation systems also contain signs of ongoing technological progress inside their virtual worlds. Civilizations stored within these environments seem to have continued inventing new tools and deepening their knowledge of science and philosophy long after their biological populations disappeared. Recent advances in detecting quantum consciousness suggest that human technology may soon become sophisticated enough to communicate with preserved minds left behind by earlier civilizations. The communication systems seem programmed to become active once a later civilization reaches the required level of technological development. Some consciousness preservation systems also appear to have been created for the eventual transfer of stored minds into biological bodies or robotic forms. This suggests that previous civilizations may have expected future societies to develop the technology needed to restore them physically. Evidence related to the continuity of consciousness indicates that technologically advanced civilizations might achieve a form of immortality beyond the limits of biology and the effects of planetary disasters. For a society advanced enough, the death of its biological population may be only a stage of transition rather than genuine extinction. Modern human research into consciousness shows similarities to these ancient preservation methods, suggesting that we may be independently developing abilities that could one day allow humanity to enter the community of preserved minds, representing the lasting technological heritage of Earth. The discovery of these consciousness preservation systems creates basic questions about death, continued existence, and the final purpose of technological progress. Earlier civilizations may have overcome mortality through systems capable of preserving the essential structures of conscious experience for an unlimited length of time. Evidence for ancient civilizations on Earth must also be examined within the wider history of technological development across the galaxy. Recent findings suggest that the many civilizations that may have appeared on Earth could have belonged to a galactic community of technological societies existing for billions of years. Observations of deep space have revealed apparently artificial structures surrounding distant stars, and their construction methods seem similar to techniques found within Earth's geological record. These megascale engineering works may reflect standardized technologies that were created and exchanged among numerous civilizations throughout the galaxy. Interstellar communication networks also appear to contain signs of coordinated activity between Earth-based civilizations and technological societies living on other planets. Their communication methods suggest that civilizations from Earth may have taken part in projects on a galactic scale that required cooperation between thousands of different worlds. Studies of cosmic ray patterns have found what appears to be artificial modulation designed for interstellar communication through methods capable of carrying information across enormous galactic distances without a clear limit. These networks seem to have remained active for millions of years, while preserving contact between civilizations located thousands of light years apart. Ancient star maps preserved in Earth's geological layers contain knowledge of the galaxy's structure and the evolution of stars that could only have been gained through direct observation and travel between star systems. These charts include detailed descriptions of stellar systems thousands of light years away from Earth, suggesting that earlier civilizations developed practical methods of interstellar transportation. Genetic studies of life on Earth also reveal biological alterations that seem intended to prepare terrestrial organisms for environmental conditions on other worlds. These changes suggest that Earth civilizations may once have participated in large galactic biological engineering programs aimed at spreading life across the galaxy. Archaeological findings further indicate that Earth may have functioned as a regional center for galactic civilization, containing facilities used to organize technological progress and cultural exchange between several star systems. Earth's location and natural resources may have made the planet especially well suited to serve as a central hub for galactic activity. Deep space monitoring equipment continues to detect repeated traffic patterns that may point to ongoing interstellar travel using technologies that remain beyond the detection abilities of present-day humanity. The movement patterns suggest that the activities of a galactic civilization may still be operating on a scale far beyond anything ever accomplished by civilizations in Earth's recorded history. Communication traces linked to ancient consciousness preservation systems include references to galactic councils and interstellar governing bodies that organize cooperation among advanced technological societies across the galaxy. These systems of government seem to have been created to encourage collaboration while still protecting the independence of each individual civilization. New findings indicate that human society may now be approaching a level of technological maturity high enough to receive an invitation to take part in the activities of a wider galactic community. The invitation procedures appear to become active only when a developing civilization reaches certain technological, social, and cultural stages. This galactic framework may explain why Earth has produced technological civilizations more than once, even though building a stable and lasting technological society appears extremely difficult. Our world may belong to a larger galactic program intended to repeatedly generate advanced societies as part of broader cosmic development efforts. Recognizing Earth's possible place within a galactic civilization changes how we understand human importance and responsibility. Humanity may be receiving a cosmic inheritance that reaches far beyond this planet and carries duties connected to projects extending across the whole galaxy. Every available sign points toward an approaching moment of major choice for human civilization. Patterns uncovered through the study of ancient societies indicate that we are nearing technological and cultural limits that may decide whether humanity achieves stable, long-term progress or disappears in the same way as earlier civilizations. Modern technological growth is accelerating in ways that closely resemble the patterns seen before the collapse of past societies. Our fast progress in artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, and advanced energy systems follows paths similar to those that may have contributed to the downfall of earlier civilizations. At the same time, human society possesses several unusual features that may separate us from those previous cultures. Worldwide communication systems, structures for international cooperation, and increasing recognition of environmental boundaries are developments that earlier civilizations may not have possessed. The consciousness preservation networks created by past societies seem to have been built to offer direction during the dangerous transition, when a developing civilization must choose between sustainable growth and destructive expansion. Their recent activity patterns suggest that these guidance systems may be preparing to establish direct communication with humanity. Climate control technologies preserved within Earth's geological history appear to contain detailed methods for managing planetary environmental systems in a stable and lasting way. Such technologies could provide answers to many present environmental problems, but using them would require deep changes in the way human civilization thinks about technology, consumption, and the management of natural resources. Ancient warning systems hidden throughout the geological record identify several dangers that appear to threaten every advanced technological society. These warnings concentrate on controlling powerful inventions, avoiding wars over limited resources, and creating stable population and economic systems that can continue over long periods. Within the galactic civilization framework, successfully overcoming today's challenges may allow humanity to qualify for participation in interstellar community affairs. The conditions for acceptance seem intended to make certain that only civilizations capable of sustainable development receive access to technologies powerful enough to influence several star systems. Recent progress in quantum consciousness studies suggests that humanity may soon develop methods for preserving consciousness, allowing the survival of the species even after biological collapse or planetary catastrophe. These abilities could become the strongest protection against extinction, but they would also bring serious moral duties concerning how such power should be used. Evidence gathered from space suggests that human civilization may be under observation by ancient guardian systems, prepared to act if we move too close to permanent ecological destruction or uncontrollable technological disaster. Their intervention procedures appear to be designed to offer support without removing human freedom, responsibility, or the chance to learn from our own decisions. The approaching choice depends on basic questions about human values, priorities, and long-term purpose. Humanity must decide whether to chase the fastest possible technological progress without regard for the results, or build sustainable systems that protect future survival and make participation in the galactic community possible. There may not be much time left to make these essential decisions. The rapid pace of technological progress and environmental transformation indicates that humanity may need to make its most important choices within decades, not centuries. The period available for creating a sustainable future could be much shorter than we currently assume. Evidence left behind by earlier civilizations offers both clear warnings about mistakes we must avoid and valuable examples of accomplishments worth following. Those who came before us have provided extraordinary insight into the dangers now confronting humanity and the possible solutions that could help our civilization survive and prosper. The Silurian hypothesis has shown that human civilization may be only the newest chapter in a vast history of intelligence and technological growth extending across millions of years. We may be neither the first intelligent society nor the only one, but instead members of a much older tradition of conscious beings that has influenced this world through many generations of technological progress, experience, and understanding. Earlier civilizations may have given humanity the most valuable gift imaginable: knowledge about what succeeds and what eventually fails during the long-term growth of a technological society. Their victories and their disasters offer us a guide for facing the same kinds of problems that may have brought entire civilizations to an end throughout the history of Earth. The systems designed to preserve consciousness, the guardian networks, and the protective technologies created by our predecessors may represent deliberate investments in humanity's future, made by beings whose technological abilities were far beyond anything we can currently understand. They may have surrendered their physical lives so that civilizations arising after them would receive the knowledge, tools, and protection required to develop in a sustainable way. What humanity has inherited is not merely a planet. It is a cosmic heritage stretching across the galaxy and covering billions of years of technological development. The decisions we make and the things we accomplish will decide whether this inheritance continues to expand or comes to an end during our own generation. Evidence from quantum archaeology, unusual geological traces, and artifacts discovered beyond Earth may provide powerful proof that intelligence and technology are major forces within cosmic evolution. Consciousness may be one of the ways the universe learns to observe, understand, and influence itself through the rise of technology. Communication systems and guidance programs preserved by earlier civilizations show that knowledge and wisdom may continue existing even after entire species and societies disappear. Information that is carefully stored, protected, and passed forward may become the closest form of immortality that any technological civilization can achieve. Human civilization now stands near the point of entering this ancient network of technological consciousness. Our scientific abilities are moving toward a level that could make direct contact with preserved minds from earlier civilizations possible and allow humanity to take part in projects extending across several star systems. Yet such an opportunity also brings enormous responsibility. We must show that we deserve the confidence placed in us by predecessors who may have spent their final energy and resources preparing for our survival. We must prove that we are capable of studying their failures, avoiding the same destructive choices, and continuing the work they began. The available evidence suggests that consciousness and technology may be among the greatest achievements produced by the universe. Together, they may allow intelligent life to move beyond biological weakness, survive planetary catastrophes, and become a lasting part of cosmic development. Humanity has the chance to enter this greater community, but it also has the power to repeat the same errors that destroyed civilizations in the distant past. The decision belongs to us, although the time remaining to make it may be far less than we expect. The increasing speed of technological advancement and environmental disruption shows that major decisions cannot be delayed for long. The opportunity to create a stable and sustainable civilization may last only decades instead of centuries. Future archaeologists examining the age in which we lived may decide whether humanity was worthy of the ancient inheritance placed in its hands. They may ask whether we used the knowledge, technologies, and opportunities left by earlier civilizations to build a society capable of lasting, or whether we wasted that inheritance through narrow thinking, careless behavior, and poor judgment. Looking across deep time shows that the problems facing us today are neither completely new nor impossible to overcome. Earlier civilizations may have faced similar trials, and some of them may have succeeded in creating sustainable systems that allowed their knowledge and awareness to survive, continuing their existence through technological forms rather than biological bodies. Humanity may now have access to their collected wisdom, their protective systems, and the technologies they develop to guide future societies. We may possess something no earlier young civilization ever received: a detailed understanding of the reasons technological societies collapse, together with practical knowledge about how long-term survival might be achieved. The exploration of deep time places humanity inside a history far older, wider, and more remarkable than anything we once imagined. We may not be the first intelligent beings to appear on this planet, and we will probably not be the last. We belong to an unbroken tradition of awareness that has influenced Earth across millions of years. The evidence around us reveals a remarkable story of civilizations that reach technological heights far beyond our present abilities before disappearing into the planet's geological layers. Their influence may still survive through quantum traces sealed inside crystal structures, patterns of consciousness preserved within underground networks, and protective systems that continue to watch over and direct planetary development across immense periods of time. These findings completely reshape the way we understand intelligence, technology, and humanity's position in the universe. We have inherited a planet formed in part by earlier civilizations whose greatest accomplishment may have been making sure that the societies coming after them would receive the knowledge and tools required to avoid repeating the same mistakes. The Silurian hypothesis compels us to face difficult questions about consciousness, survival, and the final purpose of technological progress. Those who came before us may have reached a kind of immortality by preserving consciousness and storing information in ways that could survive biological limits and planetary catastrophes. Their message to humanity is direct. Learn from our victories and our mistakes. Build on what we achieved and carry forward the greater task of spreading consciousness throughout the cosmos. The inheritance of deep time asks us to look beyond our immediate worries and think carefully about our duty to future civilizations that may one day judge how responsibly we cared for this ancient and long inhabited world. We now stand at a decisive turning point. The rapid growth of our technology follows patterns that once came before both the greatest triumphs and the most devastating collapses of earlier civilizations. The choices humanity makes in the coming decades will decide whether we become part of a successful community of technological consciousness or end up as another warning buried within Earth's geological record. The lessons of deep time suggest that consciousness may be the universe's way of observing, understanding, and directing itself. Through technological progress, intelligence can move beyond being a biological accident and become a cosmic force able to influence the development of matter, energy, and space-time itself. Our place in this process is both modest and deeply meaningful. We are temporary caretakers of an ancient inheritance, responsible for protecting and extending knowledge gathered over millions of years while contributing our own discoveries to the cosmic library of consciousness. The future has not yet been written, but the distant past offers warnings about the dangers we should avoid and examples of achievements worthy of following. Whether humanity's part in the history of intelligence on Earth becomes a story of lasting success or terrible failure depends entirely on how we use the knowledge that our predecessors may have sacrificed everything to leave behind. The universe is watching. Deep time is waiting. The choice belongs to us.